This fighter was very nearly called the Shrew, scarcely a name to inspire a nation nor terrify an enemy. Sir Robert Maclean of Supermarine wrote, "The name had to begin with an S. I wanted something quarrelsome and troublesome, spitting venom, a thoroughly nasty and unpleasant creature to meet." Shakespeare's Shrew gave me, I thought, the very word, but as I looked again at drawings of the aircraft with its 8 automatic guns, the name flashed into my mind: Spitfire. It's almost exactly 35 years since I first sat in the cockpit of a Spitfire. I was wearing these clothes, including this scarf. I was 19, scared stiff, and fiercely proud to be flying the most beautiful and finest aeroplane in the world. It was never the most comfortable, but that didn't matter. This was a superb fighting aeroplane, and it was a pilot's dream. The story of the Spitfire, which we're going to tell, isn't just a film.
But it was later realized, and in the Schneider Trophy too, we did that. But later it was realized that you get jet propulsion out of the exhaust. It was being shot out at considerable speed, and if you could turn it backwards, it would in fact give you quite a lot of increase in speed. And in fact, compared with our prototype, the aeroplane, in the form we've got it here, for instance, these sort of jets, would go about 20 to 25 miles an hour faster.
Farnborough streamlined the radiator and used waste heat to give jet propulsion to balance out the radiator's drag. Later, a curved shoulder windscreen gained 5 miles an hour, and adding doors to the retractable wheels won another 6. Eventually, the tail wheel was made retractable to speed up the Spitfire by another 5 miles an hour. But there was one unexpected defect in the carburetor.
Now, I'm a German pilot here, flying on Messerschmitt 109. This one has Richthoffen's markings on it. But if I saw an attack from a Hurricane or a Spitfire developing behind me, due to the engine that I got, which had direct fuel injection, it wasn't worried of negative G. So my immediate evasive action would be just to stick my nose straight down as fast as I could and accelerate away.
And you see, I'm behind him about to shoot him down, and he does that. Now, I've got an ordinary carburetor in this Spitfire, so when I push the stick forward, all the petrol flow goes away from the carburetor, and the airplane goes pop, bang, all this sort of banging and so on, and things come out from the bottom of the cockpit, you know, the spanners, the people left on the floor and so on, and dust and stuff. So that is no good. Now, what we evolved was somehow we got to keep the gravy in the carburetor, you know, and so we used to do a half row like that to keep the negative G, which meant you were going down with your back to him and then roll round and hope
that you were in behind
that
him.
you could see him. Now, usually, of course, he was way about running like a lamplighter, you know, you couldn't get him, but we did discover, and Bobble shows that if you saw him and stayed behind him, although you weren't anywhere near him, that he pulled out of the dive rather early. And then you could do that across him, get behind him again.
Cut the corner,
and do it. This was the point. The reason was that a very famous German pilot had pulled the wings off a 109, pulling out for speed or pulling out too hard, and we reckoned that this had gone round the German Air Force. And they'd been told to be pretty sort of porky with pulling the lever back, you know, when they were going very fast. And it made a tremendous difference, although our maneuver looks complicated. I mean, Bob will agree with me, actually after a bit you got frightfully good at it, you know, so that you could nip around, and he was still there, but a bit further away.
When the pilot turned into a dive to follow the Messerschmitt, or a bunt if you like, the fuel was thrown to the top of the carburetor, and the engine momentarily was starved of fuel and cut, power cut. And this was a disadvantage. By the time the thing had recovered, the Messerschmitt had gone. And this was cured initially in a very simple way by a famous lady engineer from the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Miss Schilling, and she put a small thing about the size of a penny with a hole through it, and we called it Miss Schilling's orifice, I remember at the time. This was a partial cure, Subsequently, the thing was cured completely by development here of Cyril Lovesey's into a new carburettor called the diaphragm carburettor.
In the fighter-to-fighter duels, the Spitfire and Hurricane drew on one more asset. They could both outturn the Messerschmitt.
See, in the Spitfire, all I do when I got a 109 behind me was simply to do a steep turn like that, and he can't get inside me to shoot. Now, Bob, you get hold of both of them and explain it, will you?
Well, now, I'm the Messerschmitt here, coming down, and I'm attacking the Spitfire. Now, the Spitfire has a remarkably good rate of turn, better than the Messerschmitt. Now, as they're turning steeply, the Messerschmitt, to shoot at the Spitfire, has got to really aim there, ahead of the Spitfire, because it's turning fast, what we call a deflection shot. But the Messerschmitt can't turn as quickly as the Spitfire, so therefore all his shots are going astern here.
After the evacuation of Dunkirk, Goering realized that the RAF fighter force must be destroyed before Germany could invade Britain. But he underestimated the build-up of our fighter production. German fighters in France were now within range of London, and the Luftwaffe prepared for the last act of the Blitzkrieg.
There's a whole stream of bullets come in from the back of the cockpit, which actually happened to me once. Now, there's nothing you can do about it, but physically you're doing something to get out of the way of this stream of stuff that's coming in behind you. So you're on the job, so to speak. Now, I don't believe you can be frightened and active at the same time, not in that particular context. And I suppose other people may have had different sort of fears, you know, but I can't think of anyone who was frightened actually in the aeroplane flying along to the battle or seeing the battle about to start. It's only when something physical happens to you that you get this feeling, and I can only describe it as a hand touching my heart, which, you know, it's like that. If that's fair, well, then I was 8 machine guns doing about 1,000 rounds a minute each, which is 8,000 rounds a minute that you're letting go with. Now, on the Messerschmitt, and Bob will tell you they had a cannon straight down the middle.
Yeah, on the Messerschmitt here, I think it was very, very good armor, personally. They had a heavy cannon firing directly through the prop boss, which is the center of the axis of the aircraft. And that was very effective armament. It was dead central in the aircraft. Then they had 2 heavy machine guns along the top of the fuselage here, there and there, which fired through the propeller. And 2 other normal machine guns outside of the circuit of the propeller, which was very good armament, I think. Don't you, Douglas?
Yes, I think it was. I think they must have hit the prop sometimes with the synchro.
Well, I think they knocked lumps out.
Because, I mean, you know, you did get knocks out of the propeller.
Well, we finally decided we had to fit cannons because the Germans were fitting armor plate to their bombers and fighters quite appreciably, and we were finding at one stage that we were firing 303, that's machine guns, up behind them, and they were taking an awful lot of punishment before you could shoot them down.
We're told to fit cannons in the Spitfires within a month. This was a tremendous task in a short time, and nobody believed we could do it. And indeed, Beaverbrook one day phoned the works, said, look, you can't do it in the time you said. We said, we can. He said, I'll bet you £100 you can't. We did, and we had the £100, which we spread amongst the blokes who did it.
In 1941, the Spitfires moved to an attacking role, hammering the Germans in France and the Low Countries, destroying communications, armor, aircraft on the ground. Hitler was now at war with Russia, but at the end of 1941, the Luftwaffe sent a potent new fighter into battle with devastating effect. This is the Focke-Wulf 190, a radial-engined fighter which outflew the Spitfire Mark V in every respect.